Hello guys, it's Chummas right here doing my CX first impressions video. Waiting a while to do this one, so you can finally do it. So let's just go ahead and get into this. So first up here, before we get into the actual new stuff, I just want to mention that the ratchets and bits on CX bays are basically the same thing as BX and UX, so no real difference there. We are just going to be focusing on the actual blades themselves for this video, well, mostly. So, here is a CX blade, has 3 parts, and you use a bit to kind of unlock and will also lock the lock chips. So, if you do that, and the lock chip, basically just a removable gear chip. Some of them are tighter than others. This one in particular, drawn, seems to be the tightest. As you can see, I struggled a little bit to get it off, but anyway. Main blades are the main blade. They have the metal, and you can see there's metal under here. Definitely a decent gap here for plastic. A lot of plastic on the main blade though, but still metal. You can definitely see the blades themselves. Not as much room, especially with the plastic on top here, so a little bit less room to mess around with. And yeah, these parts here, yeah, plastic, but anyway. And here is the assist blade, a plastic piece that helps to kind of, support the main blade and give it some extra contact points. You can see how it kind of lines up, and kind of these gaps here now have these parts here, which they do that. And then you can also see this on things like Arc. There's plastic parts here. We got like the assist blade kind of sticking out, which kind of keeps it round, not entirely, but you know, it's something. And then on Dark, you got a bunch of gaps, although Bumper does kind of subdue the gaps a little bit, so pretty interesting. But yeah. So for CX, when you look at the kind of different parts of the blade and what they do, how well does all of this actually work? Now, as a line, I think this works well. You know, you put your assist blade on underneath, and you put your lock chip on, which works fairly well. And then you use a bit to kind of twist it. The only downside is you do kind of have to hold down the lock chip a little bit to make sure it doesn't just, get pushed out. So that's the only downside, but, overall, works fairly well as a layer, or as a blade. And then you just put your ratchet and bit back on like you would with any other bay from like BX or UX, and there you go, there's your bay again. So, pretty straightforward. Now, is CX actually good? No. Is it bad? Not really. It's kind of in the middle, but I am leaning more negative than positive as of right now. There's definitely a lot of time left. This is literally wave 1, but yeah, CX is kind of weird. Now, first up, as far as the actual designs go, I think they look pretty good. I think there's a bit of awkwardness at the same time, but overall, it's new. It's something different. And I think UX, while it does look different than BX, I don't think there is a huge leap. But I think CX definitely does look quite a bit different, so if you're bored of BX and UX, I think this is a good change of pace. So design-wise, I think that these are actually pretty solid. Again, they have their quirks, but yeah, I mean, it's still good. Also, you do have these stickers here, but the nice thing is they aren't actually stickers. These are printed on details. This is something I will say. This is the best thing that CX has done. And I think it's potentially the best thing that Beyblade X has done. I think stickers have historically been pretty unfun. They got really, really ridiculous in bursts with how many stickers we were getting on some bays, and yeah, I think just having printed on details is just such a great quality of life change. Like, Bogden bays were kind of annoying to build, and we kind of saw it with HMS streamline it, and then Metal Fight really streamlined it, so the bays were a lot more, modular and easy to deal with, which has continued throughout all of Beyblade, and stickers were just like this annoying remnant of that era, in my opinion, and we were finally moving away from that. Yes, you still have stickers here and there on certain releases, but for the most part, if that could be like a special thing and main bays just to have printed on details, I think that's great. Alright, now we get to the bad stuff. First up, these blades are just too restricted. Main blades don't have as much metal as you'd think. They're lighter than BX and UX blades, which makes sense, but, you know, you have other parts, but still, like, is there a lot you can do with these parts? You can do some stuff, but it's definitely not as much. Or look at arc. This is very thin. What are we doing here? Or dark. Like, yeah, you have some spots with the plastics kind of overtaking it. So, can you ever put, like, gimmicks or anything on to CX? I think it's possible, but more challenging. I don't know if they're going to be able to build on this or not. You could argue that that's the point. This is purely meant to be, you know, the custom line in terms of, you know, having customization and nothing else. We're not getting gimmicks or whatever. But I feel like you do kind of limit yourself a little bit, and it really makes Beyblade X awkward, in my opinion, if we're not building on lines in any form. I'm not saying gimmicks have to be a mainstay here, but just, you know, something would be nice. But yeah, it's been really weird with Beyblade X and how they're handling their lines, having multiple going at the same time. I know there's a whole argument of, oh, well, it's good for balance. I'll tell you why that's not the case in a little bit, but yeah, it's been very awkward. I don't know if they're going to build on these much at all, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. Now we get to the real issues here, so there's like 4 different things. I'm going to kind of just cover them as we go. So first up, these bays are too tall. So despite being on a 60 height, this bay is still like notably taller than most other bays in Beyblade X, or at least a lot of the other ones. And that's because assist blades now add more height. So this is a very funny thing that assist blades do, and that they make the bays actually taller. So when you look at assist blades, it might be kind of hard to tell, but there is like a notable height difference between them. Again, hard to tell, but still, like, bumpers a bit taller than Slash. So all of these do increase height, which is an immediate problem. They really need to work on trying to make this part actually shorter. Just in general, I think all assist blades need to be shorter. Now, yes, it does mean that all of these older assist blades would be probably worthless, but I think for the long run, especially if we're going to have, you know, lines continue to run throughout the entirety of Beyblade X, this needs to be fixed. And then these assist blades are just taller, and like, why that severely hinders their use, and things like Slash are probably going to be the best because, well, they're not as tall. It's definitely a pretty big issue, in my opinion. Now, what also doesn't help is that the metal is too high up. Because of how main blades are, this metal is just overly high up, which also throws off the center of gravity. Obviously, being tall in Beyblade X has not proven to be a good thing for sure, so you don't want to be tall anyway. But with the metal being at a higher position, basing it off balance easier. I honestly don't think CX is going to be good at all for stamina bays. I could see it being maybe okay for like niche defense balance stuff. Could maybe do okay with certain attack types, but I don't see it doing a whole lot else. I don't think this will be like a new huge thing. I don't see CX eclipsing anything else unless they, you know, really try to make these things unbalanced to try and balance them, which I would disagree with, but anyway. Also, the metal tends to be kind of thin, especially when you look at something else, like Arc. Again, I feel like when this is higher up, it's also thinner, which, since it doesn't come down as much, also makes the balance worse because it's really concentrated to be taller. Yet this really, in my opinion, just does not work well. And another problem comes back to the assist blades yet again. So, when I first talked about CX, I mentioned how assist blades were pretty much worthless and wouldn't do anything. This ended up not being the case because, well, they're larger than I expected, but in doing so, I then mentioned in another video that this could be problematic, which it seems to be, because they're now larger and are actually being used as legitimate contact points. Yeah, these can break or get damaged. These are known for having problems. They've already been, you know, proven to have durability issues. Even if they don't break, they have pretty bad stress marks, and yeah, stress marks doesn't mean breakage, so you can still use it, but again, breaks are probably going to be pretty normal in the coming months because, I mean, we're, what, a month in? Not even technically, so people have been, battling it for a month or so, and I've already seen some breaks. This is probably going to get worse in the future, so assist blades, I think, were a pretty dumb idea, at least making them plastic. I get making them metal would make them unbalanced, but I think they need to figure out something else here. So with all of that said, how do you actually go about fixing these issues? Now I know some people have mentioned, like, oh, well, even if CX is tall or whatever, we can figure out combos, like maybe using the new 455 ratchet that you get from Wizard Arc, maybe like a low, bits, or like under needle, or any other potential under bits we get in the future. Those could actually help CX, but I very much disagree with this argument because here's the thing. If you do like 455 under needle, for example, on a CX bay, and now it's actually short and can compete, I could just grab a BX or UX blade, put 455 under needle on that, and then CX is back to having the same exact problem of being too tall. It really doesn't fix anything, so really, these just need to come down in height. I think that's a big problem. They really need to figure out something for the assist blades to not make them like this. Main blades, I don't know what you could do, but again, I think if they're shorter, again, it solves a big problem with metal, but also, if they could somehow bring this metal down more, which I don't think you could really do, but if they could, that'd be great. Or I guess you could also do like metal assist blades, which I wouldn't want them to do metal assist blades in the sense of they're entirely metal, but maybe have like a metal coating. Yes, this would have some balance concerns, and I don't know how well this would go, but maybe you could try to change up how they work inside, make them a little bit less dense on the inside of it, and really try to balance out the weights, not make them too much heavier, or even just put metal on like the main contact points, just something to try and balance these out. Also, if you do that, then that could help, the metal distribution to be a bit lower, and then the weight distribution's better. Just a thought. Again, I don't know how well that would actually work in practice, and it could also, break the game. But I think you're really gonna figure out something here. And also, yeah, that would help with the durability, of course, because, assist blades are a bit of a problem in that regard. But yeah, beyond that, it's kind of hard to imagine what they could do to really salvage this line, because I don't think it's, like, terrible. It's just not what you'd expect. Now, again, you could say, oh, well, it's because they have to make it, worse for the balance. We don't want CX to get out of control, and I disagree with this, because first up, you can make a new line that's, like, actually good and not unbalanced. Like, these bays could have been shorter and still, balanced with BX and UX. They didn't have to, like, make them tall for, like, a balancing thing. That was just a byproduct of bad design, in my opinion. But also, I think what needs to be mentioned is that just because they're keeping all of these lines around, that doesn't necessarily mean power creep, can't happen. I think BX has actually struggled a lot when you look at competitive stuff. Yes, there are still really good BX plays, don't get me wrong, but I just think UX, when you look at how many, like, top and very high tier blades are UX blades, compare that to BX blades, then also take into account how many of each type of blade there are. I think there's been a clear shift towards UX over BX, even among some of the, new BX blades that I think are struggling to keep up. Beyond that, you could also just power creep within a line. You could make, new BX bays that just eclipse old BX bays. I mean, look back to 2023 releases. How many of those blades are actually good? Phoenix Wing? Maybe Shark Edge? Are any of the other ones really cracking, like, very high tier or top tier? I really don't think so, so I think we've already seen a level of power creep for sure. So no, limiting CX in a weird way, or having multiple lines around it doesn't mean that balance is good. You can still easily screw it up, so I just want to correct that because I feel like it's something that I've seen and I just very much disagree with. Now, before I end, because this video has been largely negative, I do want to give a bit of hope here. Not every line of Beyblade starts off great. I think, in my opinion, the best example of this is Beyblade Burst God. Nowadays, I think it's revered as one of the best lines in Beyblade Burst, if not the best for a lot of people, and I think just a great line from Beyblade overall. But when Beyblade Burst God actually released initially, if you were there like 8 years ago, you might remember this, but it wasn't received all too well. I mean, you had core discs and frames, which were a change that existed. Drivers were, well, yeah, the driver selection wasn't all that great, and then the new layers, I mean, God Valkyrie had the bound gimmick, which no one really cared about, felt like it made the bit weaker, and then, you know, Christ Satan with its rollers, Blaze Ragnarok with the stamina wings, they didn't really matter. God abilities just seemed to be kind of worthless. No one really cared much about these bays. I mean, yeah, they looked cool. It's kind of like CX in that sense, where you had the bays, they look cool, and they're interesting, but they didn't really do a whole lot. It wasn't until a few releases in where it really got going, and people started to actually enjoy the line more. I kind of looked towards things like Legend Spriggan and Maximum Garuda, which both released in July of 17, so it could be a little while to see that, but also, with having multiple lines going at once, it's going to take even longer, probably not till like fall where we might see that kind of point, you know, have an effect. Unless it happens earlier, which is possible, but if it kind of followed a similar timeline, then yeah, it would be until then, until we get CX, you know, actually doing more, and unfortunately some people might have already kind of made up their mind on CX by then, and might already be looking forward to a potential fourth line, so can it recover kind of in time? We'll see. The other problem is that Beyblade vs. God also did have, you know, good ideas, it just didn't really fully execute them well initially, and I mean, even then, like, the next month you had Drain Fafnir release, so there's that as well. With CX, I think you have bigger structural problems that need to be addressed before the line actually gets good, so we'll see if they could do that. Overall, I think CX is a line that exists. It's definitely more negative than positive to me. I would not call it terrible, but I'm definitely not calling it good. It's cool. You get customization, that's nice. The bays look pretty cool as well. I mean, there's good stuff here. It's just, it doesn't perform well, doesn't really lend itself well to the future of Beyblade X as a whole, in my opinion, which is something that I'm not going to get too much into this video, because I've already talked about that, and I'll talk about it again probably in the distant future, but yeah, for now, I just still don't see how they really want to go from here, honestly. But so far, I think CX is an interesting idea, but it really needs to figure out its structural problems, and hopefully they do that sooner rather than later, because otherwise people might just be looking forward to a new line and putting CX behind them, because so far I think it's not off to the greatest start. Again, we've seen this before, but I just feel like these structural problems are going to come back to bite them. I'm not sure how this line's going to go. I feel like people might be looking forward to PX and UX stuff over CX in the coming months, but maybe that's just me. But anyways, hopefully CX does get better. I mean, it'd be nice to have like a good line. I don't really want, you know, Beyblade to be bad. I don't know why I would, so for now, we'll see what happens. We have a couple more releases coming up for CX pretty soon here, and then after that, we'll get to July. Hopefully, you know, July's crazy. Maybe they'll do some interesting stuff with CX that could help the line, but we'll see. Anyways, that's all for this video, though, so thanks for watching, and bye-bye.